Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to today's live event, Unlock Consistent Sales Success by Mastering Measurement Fundamentals. My name's Marcus Woodard, and I'm your producer for today, coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. This presentation is being recorded, and an on-demand version will be emailed out later today. We'll also give you access to a digital room that has all of the resources, recording, and slide deck available for you. Right now, I'll have everyone go into the chat window and make sure you switch from hosts and panelists in the dropdown to everyone. After you do that, let us know where you're tuning in from today. We want to make this as interactive as possible, so add your questions and comments into the chat or Q&A panel as we go, and the speakers will do our best to get them answered. We are anticipating tons of questions, so we've left ample time at the end to get these in. With that, let's hand it over to our speakers for a quick intro. Andy, what do you say we start with you?
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Andy Springer from Rain Group, Chief Client Officer. What some of you may not know about me is I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm a practitioner. So what we're doing is sharing with you what we do inside sales organizations most days of the week. So measurement and measuring the impact that we're having is a critical part of our role. So actually what we're going to do is pull back the curtain today and show you how we go about creating the measurements in a enablement environment. And then from a tech space, our tech expert, let's throw to you, Peter. Do a quick intro for us.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Excited to be here. My name is Peter Kyranakis. I'm the Vice President of Solution Consulting and Sales Enablement at Allego. I think the interesting aspect of my role at Allego is not only do I help customers understand the value of the solution, I also have to manage the solution internally at Allego to help engage and enable our own selling team. So I get the great opportunity to not only implement a lot of enablement strategies, utilizing a lot of the concepts from Rain as well as the technology of Allego, but I also get to help other customers understand the value of that as well in my day-to-day. So it's a very unique role, but one that I'm super stoked and one that I'm very positive and energetic about. I think, as you talked about, Andy, one of the things that we're definitely excited for here is to talk about some of the things that we all find value in as practitioners of enablement. And so, again, I'm not here to sell technology. I'm here to talk about some of the things that we found success with, and hopefully you guys can find some success with as well. So definitely excited to be here.
All right, well, let's kick into it. And just as Peter just said, let's be clear. Rain and Allego, we are very much partnered, and we're partnered in creating outcomes for clients in the sales enablement space. So, well, in the sales space, but we do it through enablement. So, just keep that in mind. We're here to help, and we are what I would define as generous brands. So, we're actually really going to show you what we do and how we do it. And we do it in this space every single day. So feel free to have your questions ready as to how, if you're doing this or you're challenged by this, we're about to show you the easy part, which is about 4 or 5 years of work to get to this point. We're going to show you a model. We're going to show you examples of how to bring that model to life and how we're doing it in both a high tech, high touch way combined. You can do it in tech only. You can do it in services only, or you can do it combined. We'll show you each. And then, as we said, we're going to leave plenty of time for you to ask us questions around how you do it. And we might be able to hopefully share some value in our answers to help you solve this, because we know from an enablement perspective, this is a big problem that a lot of you are seeking to solve. So we've decided to share some ideas and experience with you. So let's get started. Want to hear from you. Thanks, Marcus, for so quickly getting that poll up on screen. How well does your organization track enablement impact to sales performance? So actually, are you able to show that what you do, if you're a sales enablement professional, if you're a sales leader who is seeking to make an investment in enabling and developing your team, are you going to actually be able to prove ROI in that investment? Some of you looking at it going, I want to make this significant investment in an LMS for our sales team, or we're thinking about it, and we can't prove the ROI to actually get sign off on that investment. What's happening for you? You're doing a really good job, because for some of you, it might be, hey, can we have you share some of those examples in the chat a little bit later? For some of you, it might be, yeah, we're good, but we have real issues with tracking. Some of you, we aren't doing this at all. Kind of show me, help me. And then there may be some other things that you want to add in the chat as to where we're at. So let's just give you another couple of seconds. No, we've closed that. Let's have a look. All right. What's your reaction there, Peter?
I mean, I think this is an honest crowd, which is great. It's good to see. I'm glad everybody's, not patting themselves on the back. I think, as sales leaders and enablement folks, we're always thinking about ways to do it better. So I'm glad to hear that there is some tracking. I think that's great. I think having data is important. Understanding that you need to get the data is important, but also understanding where you are and kind of that data trek of getting more and better data that helps you impact more of what you're doing is important. So I'm definitely glad to see there's lots of you that feel like you've got some good data in place today. There's some that maybe haven't started yet, don't have the right tools, need some guidance. I'm excited you guys are here because I think you're going to get a lot out of this conversation. Excited for your feedback and questions as we go through some of this. So I'm glad we got Andy, I'm excited we got an honest, interactive crowd so far. I think it's going to make for, a great next hour of conversation.
Awesome. Well, what I didn't do was remind us that we've got folk from all across North America. So the US, Canada, we've got a very keen person from Queenstown in New Zealand, beautiful part of the world. In case you haven't been there, you should all head down there. Unfortunately, their rugby team is actually too good for anyone else, but we won't talk about that. And welcome to everyone from around the world. Why don't we jump into it? Peter, tell us a little bit more about modern revenue enablement platforms.
For sure. I think one of the things that we thinking about how we think about data, thinking about how we show revenue enablement outcomes to actual sales performance, it's a challenge. I'll be the first one to say, and a lot of times it's a challenge because of the tools that our enablement teams and our sales teams have to utilize. A lot of us are involved with traditional LMS applications, and traditional LMS applications are very difficult to help you equate your sales performance back to your enablement efforts. It's just that those two things don't mix well. They never have. And typically those LMS tools are inherited. They're run by HR departments that don't care about outcomes of sales. They don't care about how your enablement is impacting your ability to increase your sales. All they care about is, can I get these new hires through this content, get them through it as quickly as possible, and get them into their roles so that their leaders can take them on and help them learn and help them get to the point of helping the organization move forward. This is a great example right here. This is what everyone's used to seeing. This is your prototypical onboarding timeline that comes in play from, hey, day one, you meet people, you get some content, you're working through those courses, you're trying to get, as the enablement person, trying to get them through as quickly as possible to get to that end point, which is their ability to engage with a prospect or client and speak something of an educated way about the products that they sell, the services that your organization provides. That's typically what a traditional LMS tool offers you. A modern revenue enablement tool is different. It's different in the sense that not only is it important that you get the content and information to your new hires and to your sales team, but you actually need an entire platform that not only helps you deliver all that to your end users, but it also helps them deliver information to their buyers. It helps managers coach and upskill, and it helps the sellers themselves engage with their buyers at a totally different level than ever before. That's never possible inside of an LMS. An LMS is focused on delivering information as quickly as possible to check the box to achieve a certification, and you move on. Whether you circle back to that doesn't really matter. A modern revenue enablement platform, it's designed to be an everyday tool. You want your sellers using this tool every single day. And if you can get them to use it every single day, their ability to be ready with information at the point of a sales cycle that's needed to deliver and push a deal forward is going to be so much better and so much more prepared to achieve the goals you need. And it's very easy then to tie all that back to sales performance based on the information, the collateral, the content that you make available to your seller. So it really takes a modern revenue enablement platform, just like Allego, in order to make it easier to equate all your enablement activities to your sales outcomes and performance.
A great point. That's a great point. I mean, a couple of the things for those of you in enablement, sales enablement on the call, and those of you who are listening as sales leaders, if you're going to create something for sellers, as Peter said, you've actually got to create it where you want them to live and where they're going to spend the most amount of their time. And I think we do a lot, and we spend a lot of time focusing on CRM. And that is often because from a management perspective, we get data that we can report out on and we can make decisions on. From an enablement perspective, that is where the seller wants to live a lot of the time. They want to learn, they want to grow, they want to develop, and they want to do it fast. And they want on-demand access to the specific type of information that's going to help them in that moment in preparation, in recollection or reconnecting with knowledge that they'd thought about but forgotten about, but now it's relevant and I need to target it. And where was it? And how do I access that? So that on-demand and that now, that micro-learning sort of moment that they're constantly looking for is critically important. And so it's not just about what can the organization get from the seller in terms of data input often found in the CRM. It's the revenue enablement platform in the digital space being that on-demand tool that they can go to in the moment for micro-learning to be able to help them deliver a better result at each of their selling touch points. All right, let's Peter, anything else there?
Well, I was just going to say all that's straight on point, Andy. I think the other thing that I think is critical to think of is as you think about your enablement, a lot of people think of it as it's a flow. You got to start at point A and you want to get to point B, and you want to do that as efficiently and quickly as possible. It's actually not a point A to point B. It's circular. And that's really why and how we think at Allego of enablement as a whole. It's a circular concept that it constantly has to be utilized. It constantly has to be engaging. And really, the sellers are at the middle of it. And so that's really what this diagram helps articulate, is the fact that you got to think of your enablement as ongoing and constant. Your engagement with your sellers is ongoing and constant. And when you do that, you've got the best tool in place to help you really understand and maximize your enablement efforts for ultimately what we all want. We all want positive sales outcomes. That's the most important piece of this whole conversation, is utilizing the right techniques and the right tools in order to get what everyone wants in this conversation, which is positive sales outcomes.
Great one. Great one. I'm going to let you read Kevin's in the chat. I love that. And I'll get you to respond to that. Probably at Q&A, unless you want to weave it in, but definitely that's a very good example. All right, let's have a look. So we've looked at it from a high-tech perspective, and we've talked about revenue enablement in the digital landscape, and obviously Peter and his team, the experts in that space. For some of you who know Rain Group, you might think sales training. Sales training is a really easy and tangible way for us to market ourselves. Why? Because there's such big demand in the market for it. So the minute you say sales training and you position yourself as a quality provider in that space, you can generate interest, and people's solution, which they think is training, is easy for them to align to us and start conversations. Actually, what we don't do is just focus on sales training. And to Peter's point, our goal is to transform, not train. Training is a part, a mechanism of some sort of transformation that our clients come to us seeking in some way. And I would dare argue that all of you are in the same boat. If you think in terms of your solution, your product or service solution that you have in your business, actually, it's not the product or service that they're often that your customers are after in most cases. It's the outcome it produces, right? They're after you know, they're not hunting for the wall nail. They're looking for they're thinking about how do they get the painting hung on the wall as the outcome. And so we are in the business of creating sales transformation outcomes is what we talk about each and every day. And our method in order to do that is on the left, which is what we call craft, deliver, enable. But what our focus is creating, as Peter said, sales performance improvement outcomes of some kind. So I've given you an example in terms of the world we talk about when we're engaged as practitioners in sales transformation each day. And those sales performance improvements are often the areas that we measure in some way, shape, or form. How do we measure revenue growth, profit growth, win rates, market share? All of those things that you can see there is what we spend our life in each and every day in terms of measuring sales performance improvement. But then it leads to something, and it's always, you know, why are we doing this? And the why of the sales performance improvement, often the answer shocks you when clients say to us in some case, well, it's so we can generate more revenue to invest in strategic initiative, a strategic initiative that we have. We need to generate more revenue right now or increase our profit in order to scale the company to an exit event. We're gonna IPO it, we're gonna sell it, we're gonna whatever it may be. It could be to get battle ready for AI. That was one of the needs the other day that was surfaced. We're doing this to put ourselves in a financial position to be battle ready for AI, was what the executive eyeballed me and said. And I'm like, wow, okay, we're enabling a company to be battle ready for AI by improving their sales performance. So this is the stuff that makes what we do interesting and purpose driven, is the way I like to look at it. And I want, in terms of you as sales leaders, some of you might have just had a paradigm shift and gone, what are the outcomes that we actually produce for our customers or clients, depending on how you call them? And then how do we measure that? And for those of you in sales enablement, you live in our world, right? You understand what we're talking about here. But you may only look at it through the lens of those sales performance improvement measures, right? I want to encourage you to go beyond that. What actually beyond measuring this are you helping achieve? What problems are you solving for your company and for your sales org? What objectives are you helping them realize beyond just measuring this? Because that's also another really important point, because this gets hard, right? This gets hard. We're going to show you how to make it simple, but simple doesn't mean easy, right? This gets hard. And so you need to have a really clear purpose as to what you're enabling, so that when it does get hard, you're clear in terms of why you need to stick at it and drive through. Because one of the very simple stumbling blocks that a lot of you have just told us you're experiencing is tracking, right? And it's the number one thing that most of you are gonna struggle with, is tracking. And we're gonna show you some examples now. I'm gonna share the model with you, and I'm gonna show you some various different examples that involve tracking in different kinds. And then I'm gonna hand it back to Peter, and he's gonna go full gamut. He's going to show you all the things that not just that you can measure, but how you track them as he said, in a modern revenue enablement platform outside of just what you think a CRM can do. So we're going to look at, I'm going to take you on a journey from a pure service training, like how do you measure training sort of space. Some of you might go, I just need the training part. We're going to look at how that connects to CRM, if those of you just want to look at CRM. But then we're going to take you to the next level for those of you who really want to strap rockets to this thing, is move into that space that Peter's going to show us, which is revenue enablement in a kind of expedited fashion. So let's jump into it. Peter, anything anything you want to add before I jump in? Because all good. Okay.
I think the crew wants to get to this, so the crew will kill me if I jump in anymore. So let's get to this, and I'll definitely have some to add as you walk through this.
I've never shown this before, right? So I'm taking a big leap of faith that you're going to get lots of value from this, and I can make sense of it real quick. So this is what we call our engagement measurement model, right? So this is for those of you who really want to measure ROI and the effectiveness of any sales enablement investment, training, onboarding, whatever it may be. And for those of you sales leaders who really want to think about, well, how do I actually think about measuring ROI and getting a case up to be able to invest in training and technology for my sales team, well, this model might help you. So if you look across the top, there's 3 columns that we're going to look at. We're measuring the volume of activities, the quality of activities, and then how we're going to sustain them. And then we're measuring that in both lead from an activity perspective and lag from an outcome perspective. So we're measuring activity that leads to result, right? Or outcome. So if we look at it very simply, what are the volume of activities, of sales activities to get us started? And now I'm going to say what I will always encourage you to do is don't try and measure any more than 3 at a time, right? You've got to pick the 3 most impactful activities. Don't pick the 33, because you will do yourself irreparable damage trying to figure out how to measure 33, how to track it, and then how to stand it up. Go for 3, right? Go for 3. Pick your 3 sales activities that you want to measure. Pick the outcome that when there's a volume of those sales activities happening, here's what will show us that the volume of those sales activities is being effective in creating, right? And that's your lag measure or your outcome. Then you go, once you've got volume of sales activities happening in your org at the output of training or any sort of enablement sort of activity, you want to then measure the quality of it. So we go from, right, we've got people doing it in volume. Now we want to measure the quality of it to make sure that what we're doing is of high quality. So once again, pick up to 3 measures that define the quality, the most important measures that will say, if we do this at this quality, we are going to be seeing a significant improvement in outcome. And then we're going to define what that outcome measure is. And then once we've got the volume of sales activity happening out of this training or enablement, and it's now quality activity. So we're seeing quality sales outcomes being produced from that at volume. You're going to start to see the sales performance dial shift, whatever that may be. And then we want to go, well, right, how do we sustain this change, right? So what are the measures, the ongoing measures that are going to say, if we're doing these activities regularly at a high quality level, here's the outcome that we should be seeing, and here's how we're going to measure that. So that's the headline view. In a minute, we're going to share 2 specific examples of actually how you do it and make it real for you. But before that, Peter, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great concept. It's one that we find lots of value in. And I think one of the challenging pieces of this is, again, a lot of us probably immediately went to, yes, I have this data, it's in my CRM, but the big challenge is, how do you equate your enablement activity to impacting the sales performance in your CRM? And that's where traditional LMSs become very difficult to pull that together. I think one of the great things about this this theory, this concept, and the measures that are in place is you need a tool, you need a modern revenue enablement tool that can piece together the things you're doing inside of your enablement program. It needs to be able to tie directly into your CRM so that then you can begin to equate and pull measures across both those tools that show the actual impact of the things that you're doing, from the volume of the trainings that you're giving, from the impact of how the content that you're making available for your opportunities at different points in the sales strategy, how it's having an impact on moving those opportunities forward. And you also want to be able to see over time how your sellers are consistently keeping up and utilizing the latest and the greatest information so that they're continually pushing their sales activity forward. That all takes a tool that can come together and work under one umbrella. It's very difficult to pull all your activity from an LMS, equate it back to activity inside of a CRM in order to get to these measures. So I think that's an important piece to think about when you start to look at leading and lagging measures in order to support your activity across an enablement front.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Let's make this real, because I'm seeing there, yes, qualitative measuring or measures are very much a challenge, Roland. I can agree with you. Let's just make it real, give you some simple examples, and then I want to hand it back to Peter so he can deep dive and show you how you might do what he was just saying there, because that is a brilliant point. All right, so let me just frame this up for you, what you're looking at on screen, just to make it real. So this is a real company, and they are, I would say, less tech savvy than most of our clients. They are an enterprise materials provider, is probably the only information I can share without giving it away. And they have a massive footprint. And their big issue was the compression and the competitive nature that's coming back post-COVID into their market. And whilst they were a market leader and enjoyed the spoils of significant business growth during the COVID times, because they had supply chains that were less affected than their competitors, they realized that they needed to put a significant focus on better engaging their customers, having their finger on the pulse in terms of their needs, and grow accounts more effectively and systemically. And that's when we engaged them. And so we sat down and we said at the top, right, what's the sales outcome we're driving for here? And they said they want 75% of all of their account managers consistently achieving both in quarter and yearly. Some are only achieving yearly, some would do sporadic quarterly achievement, and they wanted to do that within their financial year, which was June 30. And then they wanted that sales performance improvement to realize a net business outcome of a 10% increase in revenue over that financial year. So that was their measures. That's in terms of this would demonstrate ROI, a successful ROI back to the business in terms of what they're trying to achieve. So without having a very strong technology backbone, we had to figure out how to be able to bring this to life in terms of a practical sense and then a tracking sense. And so there were lots of different options thrown up, and we went actually quite simple on this one, where we said, right, we've got 450 account managers, and what we want to see is we want to see them effectively planning their territories at various intervals throughout a year, and then we want them to be identifying of in some cases, 100 accounts that they were seeking to manage. Which of them were the most important to realize a growth number, and which of the accounts were they more likely to be able to grow, and therefore let's apply more specified account plans to those in order to be able to do that. So the outputs in terms of the volume of what we needed to see was we needed to see territory plan completion, we needed to see account plan completion, and with 450 account managers, we need to see that en masse, right? So our tracking in terms of volume was quite straightforward. And when we saw them planning, what we knew or what we should be seeing in our lag is we wanted to be able to see new opportunities from these accounts being added to the pipeline. And we felt a conservative estimate, or they felt a conservative estimate would be 15%. Now, in terms of that, they're already on track. They're not just on track, they've exceeded that already, and we're not even close to October. So there's been a significant release of new opportunities into their pipeline already from what we've seen, and we're only just partway through that planning phase. So we get the volume piece sorted, and then it's like, well, how do we actually know that these plans are quality, right? We've got all these plans built, and so then it was a matter of scoring, and so we built very simple scoring rubric, and we initially did it manually because we couldn't do it in the tech. And then the aim is obviously in the next few months to make that come to life in a more technologically driven way. So we went to scoring. We built a very simple rubric. This is what great looks like. This is what average looks like. This is what poor looks like in terms of these plans. And then we had the managers, as part of their KPIs, go and score those. And we engaged them, and we made the why clear as to why it was important to do this. And then they went out and then they're in the process. Some of them are doing it or will soon be. So the aim of that is we want to see pipeline coverage. We're going to measure pipeline coverage as a whole to see where we're at in terms of spread for the remainder of the financial year. We're going to be seeing a significant increase in those who are actually achieving in quarter, those account managers in quarter. We want to be also seeing, and I think that was one of the quality pieces that we came to, was this is all good, but it's very us focused, it's very sales focused. Is this actually having a positive impact with the customer? And then we engaged the customer team and figured out that they do pulse checks with the customers each quarter, and we could tap in to see, is there an improvement or is there a shift in the NPS scoring from a customer satisfaction perspective that we could plug into, and we're going to be looking at that as well. So we've got outcome measures, we've got quality measures, and then as you can see, we move on to sustainment. In this case, we want to see those plans updated regularly at the right intervals. We want to see the quality scores increase over time as they get better, not maintain, increase. And then we want to see that the actions coming out of the plan are executed, because having a plan and not doing anything with it, it's as good as not having a plan. So, and then you can see that there's consistency in terms of the measured outcomes in this. Now, this is a pure CRM play in terms of tracking, and we had to work hard up front, and we're still working to make sure that those things are being engineered, those actions and items and measures are being engineered into the CRM. This is very time intensive in terms of the back end, and they've had to engage some CRM specialists. I won't say which CRM. Everyone gets very finicky about their CRM. They've had to engage experts in terms of that in order to make their CRM ready for this. So it has been possible. We have done much smaller deployments in CRM where it's easier and less and more cost effective, but often you're going to need a CRM that you can tweak and be able to manipulate in order to be able to track some of these. And that kind of gives you a view in terms of a live one we're working on at the moment, which we haven't properly integrated into the LMS or the revenue enablement side that Peter's going to talk to us about. Just going to pause there, Pete. Is there any thoughts or comments on that before we share the combined view?
No, I think you make a great point as to why you want to start with specific metrics, and up to 3 at the most to start. This can get unwieldy quickly. At the same time, I think it's critical that you're pulling in CRM data, and I think that the piece we want to get to next is kind of tying the CRM data as you see here, which is a great example of how you can impact the sales culture with CRM data. But ideally, you could pull that together with your revenue enablement platform data and really take it to the next level to help you continue to understand how what you're doing as enablement specialists can impact the overall performance of your sellers, which is ultimately what we all want to impact.
And there's just a couple of questions. Let me answer those. Thanks, Kevin. So TCAM for us, sorry, that's our internal dialogue. So TCAM is territory and key account management. So territory and key account management incorporates where we've gone in and upskilled a sales org on territory planning, and we've done the same with key account planning. So we've run them through we've deployed a multi-region training exercise previous to this to get them across that, and they've done planning workshops that have then created these outputs. So this is post-training, and this is what we call our enablement phase. So I talked about craft, deliver, enable. This is what our client engagement directors will be working with the client on to bring to life, to track, to manage and put countermeasures in place and interventions, drive manager engagement to keep this momentum going as we do. And it's regularly reported out, and weekly meetings happen to make sure that all of this is happening. Now, we're moving a sales org of 450 account managers in the same direction here to achieve significant performance uplift. And as I said, by the way, this has been very challenging, but hugely rewarding because it's working. This one is actually, but it's quite manual. And so I want to share this with you because this one's, I hate comparing, all engagements are different and unique to the clients that we're working with, and we're very focused on their outcomes. This one's a very cool one because it's the one where we are very much partnered with Allego, and Allego are educating us as a partner, working in partnership with our client to really kind of push the envelope of what's possible. Why? Because spending a huge amount on service-based offerings like training and having us physically on the ground, although they want us, was cost prohibitive. So technology really needed to provide not just a solution, but a solution that could lead to measured results and outcomes for that client. And this is where we went, small CRM, big revenue enablement. This is where we brought Rain and Allego together in a really cool way. and we're expecting significant success, but it's in a low service environment, right? So we've got 6 self-study mods. And we've got, as for those of you know, we've got 80 plus mods. Mods is a module of learning. And instead of programmatic learning, with Rain, you can pretty much pick and choose and design bespoke curriculums in this modular format. And our revenue enablement platform for our clients that we build on is Allego. And so they go into Allego, and the sellers watch and do self-study at their own pace over a period of time. They've got to complete it by that time in Allego. And then what they need to do is, once they've completed the self-study, the first measurement of volume is to go back into Allego and complete a simulation. That is a conversation. And in some cases where it's going, and Peter can talk to that, is an AI-based simulation with an AI avatar. And they've got to have a needs discovery conversation on the platform with that. And that needs discovery conversation is scored. And so the first thing we wanted to do is do the mods, complete the simulation. And what we want to see in terms of the outcome of that is a 90% pass on the knowledge check. So we're going to check their knowledge at the same time. This is all in the revenue enablement platform, right? We then want to go to, right now we've got that activity done. We've got the knowledge in their minds. We've had some application of learning. Let's go and score that, right? Let's now engage scoring and coaching as the next phase of our quality of enablement. So let's go and score those conversations that are recorded. Manager goes in at their own time, when they have the time, go in, apply the scores in Allego. They then create out of that gaps, right? Here's where you are. Here's where we need you to be in terms of the type of conversations you're having as a seller. I'm going to use what I've just seen and create very quick and simple coaching plans. So gap coaching plans. We're going to create those, and then we're going to have a review session with each of the coachees to make sure that we're going to help close those gaps. One of the big drivers, sorry, I didn't tell you at the top, what's the driver of all this? What they were realizing was they were selling on average 1.3 products per solution, when they should be, and the integration of their technology products meant they should be selling 3 or more typically. And so how do we drive that average up? What we realized was they weren't doing good enough needs discovery with their customers. They didn't know their needs. They were getting straight to a point where they heard one need and they were selling straight to it. And they were therefore only selling very small amount of products that could and there were much bigger solutions to create much bigger outcomes for their customers. So we needed to focus on the needs discovery piece and crack that code. And this is our approach to doing that. So like through the process, we wanted to see that average was starting to go up in terms of the immediate sales. We were about able to track that in their CRM to start seeing the average number of products sold in their solution was starting to go up. And then we wanted to sustain that. So once we've got the knowledge, we've got the activity in terms of the needs discovery showing up, we've quality assessed that, and we've got coaching in place. We simply then just want to go and sustain that so that by the end of the quarter, we're going to be seeing a uplift that gets us to our average of 3+ products sold. And then we want to inject. Now, NPS Pulse, I've got a question here. So Net Promoter Score is obviously our customer advocacy and satisfaction score, which is universally known. What a pulse check is something like you might just send one question out to your customer base more frequently. Like a lot of customers do it every quarter. Would you recommend us to someone who, a customer who could buy us or would buy us? Would you recommend us? Is the question. And a lot of companies do very long-winded customer satisfaction and NPS surveys, maybe once a year, or at some sort of frequency. A pulse check is really just one question, which is your NPS question, going out at a more regular frequency to your customer base. And that's what we call a pulse check versus a full-blown customer satisfaction and advocacy survey. So sorry, I didn't define that. So that's where we've got a full end-to-end partnership, as I said, with the revenue enablement platform. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to hand it to Peter. For those of you who've got more questions about these, let's bring them to life in the Q&A, but I'm going to hand it to you, Peter. Let's get a little bit more funky, because I know in the tech space where we're going with this is next level. we're thrilled that you're going to help take us there. So why don't you share how you're doing that?
Yeah, and the partnership has been great. I think the thing, Andy, that a lot of people look at that, they may think, oh my goodness, like these must be long, arduous mods that the sellers have to go through, and the managers then have to sit through and grade and score. I think that's the beauty of a high-tech solution like Allego. A lot of that stuff is, one, you can make these mods quick and painless for your sellers so they can take them as they have time and as they need it. You can AI score a lot of the things that they're interacting with so that their manager doesn't have to really go in and they got this answer right. They got all that's done automatically. So again, it's efficient for your sellers, it's efficient for your managers, and ultimately that increases the amount of activity that you get from your sales team because you made it easy for them. And so just looking at some of the concepts that help us in this idea of leading and lagging across volume, quality, and sustainment. I think all of us at the top understand you got to put an amount of training and courses out there. You want them to get to a certain completion rate. You want them to achieve certain badges, and that's all great. But you got to really be able to see what's their engagement. How is their knowledge progressing? How often do they go back and use this information? All that stuff is a great way to measure within the tool itself. And ultimately, you can equate it back to sales performance and success because you're tying in the CRM data, which is so important. If you look at volume and you think about lagging, a lot of things that we're focused on is how are they using the content that's there? Not only the internal content, but also the content that they're sharing externally. Because now with a modern revenue enablement platform, you can see the interactions that your sellers are having, not only with their internal managers and their internal enablement team, but now you can also see the impact they're having with information they're sharing with their customers. And that becomes even more important because then you can start to understand the impact of the information that you're sharing with your seller. How is that impacting their sales cycle? How is that moving deals forward? Because the other thing we hear a lot of feedback on from our customers is, how do I know that what I'm making available to them or the content that they have or the slide decks they have, how are they actually impacting the actual sales cycle? All that can now be tracked because you're blending the CRM data with your enablement data. So you can actually see when I provide information to a customer at this point in the sales cycle, it moves it forward. Or if I provide this information to a customer and they don't open it, they don't interact with it, it's not landing where it needs to be. And so that usage data becomes extremely important. Plus, we all our sellers are having lots of conversations. There's no way a manager is going to be able to actually go through those and analyze those calls to give them pointers and coaching. Our call intelligence tool allows that. So as long as they're having those conversations, you can continue, give them feedback about some of the key points they're doing well in and they're hitting on in their sales pitches, as well as maybe some key words you don't want them to say, you want them to stay away from. And so that coaching is constant as they're continuing to go through their flow of work. That's really around volume. As you think about quantity, some of your leadings are around assessment scores. So we want not only our managers helping our sellers, but we also want the tool itself to be smart enough to help our sellers so they can actually assess how they're doing in any of their recorded calls, in their simulators, in their practices, in their ride-alongs, so that the manager doesn't have to be the one giving their time in every instance. The tool can actually help them continue to improve as they do more and more of these assessments and more of these practices. And then certainly understanding what your skill competencies are that you really want to measure becomes really important, because there, a lot of times it's very easy for managers to give, hey, let's let this guy slide because he's doing well, or let's let this guy slide because I have favoritism. Understanding your skills and your competency for your sellers is hugely important, and then measuring that becomes very important, easy enough inside of the tool. And then as you move to quality around your lagging indicators, buyer engagement is key. I've already hit on that. Your ability to actually look inside of your opportunities at a sales stage and understand through Deal Navigator what kind of insights and history and interaction are you seeing from your buyers as they're interacting with the content that you're providing for them. That's extremely important because, again, you want to make sure you're driving deals forward with the information and the content you're making available to your sellers. You just can't get that if you're only looking at the CRM. You got to be able to combine both in order to really see how the information sellers are selling or providing is impacting the sales strategy to move that deal forward. And so that really helps from a lagging perspective. And then just the last bit here, sustainment. Andy, I think you would agree, super important to not only put these things in place, but ensure you've got the tools in place to help reinforce and push that forward over and over again, because you want to sustain that high end. Anytime you push something out, there's excitement, but over the course of time, you want to keep it going. You don't want to lose that momentum. And so lots of great things that Allego can provide, like flash drills, which is very important. Deal recommendations. Sellers love this because they don't have to go through and say, okay, what should I share with my customer that's interested in these products at this point? The tool can actually surface content and information that they can then provide to their sellers. And not only does it surface content, it should actually stack rank it based on how often this content is shared with customers at this point in the sales cycle. So it takes the guesswork out. It takes some of the concern of having to drum up and create a sales strategy away from the seller, so that now it's starting to recommend information for them so that they're more prepared and more confident that their buyers are going to get something out of the content that they're providing to them. And I know I'm running up on time, so I want to go quick, and I can hit on more of these in detail as you guys have questions. But as we get to the lagging indicators, I think this is where a lot of people have interest, because they want to understand, how does my involvement from an enablement standpoint or from a content creation standpoint actually help in creating and driving revenue? And that's a piece that's easily done inside of Allego by bringing both the CRM data together with the content and information that's provided through Allego to customers. You can actually see that impact on a revenue, on an individual opportunity level, which ultimately over time allows you to see revenue attribution to all of those activities. So lots of great tools, just like Andy talked about, great measures to start simple, but they're impactful. But having a modern enablement tool that can key into your CRM allows for a much easier way to show that impact from enablement to overall success in the sales outcomes, which is everything we're trying to get to as enablement practitioners and sellers.
So I think just a couple of things there. Your marketers, if you've got partners in marketing, they love the fact that your content actually has a home to be brought to life through sellers. From an enablement perspective, you can see having an always-on, on-demand access to the things that we've already trained on, but actually to have immediate recall in the sales moment or preparation leading up to the sales moment is there. And then for those who are looking at it from a low service, so low touch perspective, like how do I spend less time doing this but still get the measured outcomes that we've been talking about, then you're going to need a technology platform to be able to do that. If you've got less time and less human effort required, to be able to bring all these things together and do it in an automated fashion. One, there is the AI feedback and scoring. That is going to change our enablement world, because if all I have to do is be really good at writing and creating rubrics, and by the way, you can go to OpenAI and have a conversation with your large language model and ask it with the parameters to create a rubric for you if you're struggling. And you can do that at speed. You'll get an 80% rubric in seconds as a starting point. But all you need to do is define a rubric in terms of measuring quality, in terms of sales activity that you want to measure. You then have a platform you can just feed that into, and it can automatically score that and observe that through its AI. I mean, think about the possibilities in terms of sales development at your fingertips and the speed and scale at which you can do that and where it's going. It's not like we are very much in that thinking of high tech, high touch as we move into the future in this sales enablement space. You have to have technology platform. You need to be partnered with a platform in order to be able to enable this. We've chosen obviously Allego, but you need a platform is one of the big things. And I think hopefully a lot of you are seeing that. And one that's got as much of everything as Peter said in it, because you don't want to be chasing around with bolt-ons all the time. It's just too complex. And by the way, your IT teams do not have, the biggest stumbling block in partnerships with our clients is not us. It's the IT teams and the long list of changes and requests they're already trying to work through in CRM and bolt-ons and integrations that we have to find a way to get sales enablement to the top of the list. Because, when we've got measured outcomes that we're driving towards, and we've got executives that are connected to that, it's very easy for us to go into those environments and go, well, we need to get sales enablement to the top of the list here in terms of what we're going to measure and how we're going to deploy this, because this is going to produce real meaningful outcomes that we're seeking to measure for the organization. So that's another important part of having measures done up front, is they become your weapon to get stuff done really quick. I'm just going to close off. Let's get to Q&A and at least just get there, Peter, and then we might deep dive back on some of these things. So
you bet.
Feel free to screenshot that. That's on there at the moment. I've already covered a lot of this, and so has Peter. High tech, high touch, right? You've got to go both. Don't try and do it in a service space or a manual way, and find the right platform to be able to do that supports you. We've obviously provided you with some examples of how we do that in partnership together. You've got to get clear on your why, right? You are not here to provide solutions. It's what your solution creates in terms of meaningful business outcomes. Get clear on what that is. If you're a sales leader, what are the specifics, right? Do you have a strategy that sales performance improvement that you're going to measure ties to, so you can show if we grow revenue, if we increase profit, if we acquire more users in terms of this, and this, here's how we're going to benefit or contribute to the company's strategy of XYZ. So get clear on your why, get clear on your measures, and we call that your new reality, your future state that you're working towards. In terms of measures, be realistic with what you're measuring and the challenge you're setting. So it should be what you think you're capable of achieving with a bit of stretch. Don't just go, oh, well, this is a very simple measure and this is a very simple outcome. No, always add a little bit of stretch, because you'll get more lift with a bigger lift with a little bit of stretch. You got to track it. We've covered that. Think 3 stop. What's 3 stop? That is, don't measure anything more than 3. And if you're doing that, stop, right? You'll overcomplicate it too quickly, and complication kills progress, right? We've talked about why. If you can't track it, you've got to stop. Don't do it on your own. Engage and collaborate where you can. Don't give up. You'll get there. As I said, it's taken us 5 years of hard work to figure it out. It's real simple for us to explain it now. We do it every day. I can walk into any sales org, and so can Peter, and we can literally whiteboard or virtually whiteboard measures, and boom, boom, and then we into, of all these measures, which can we track, and then we can build that VQS matrix really quick because we know what we're doing. But we didn't give up. Don't give up. This is hard. You will get there, and engage those who have done it before to make it easier for you. And you've got 2 people here. I'm sure you've got others. If they can't do what we've said, then are they your right partner? Would be my question. They've got to demonstrate how they do this for their clients to be able to help you do this. Don't miss dates. You've got to hold people. If you're going to measure it, you've got to have accountability, right? You can't relent on that. And you may have an accountability issue, not a measurement issue, in terms of the effectiveness of this. And go top down. Get your executives involved early, and have them brought in and with you on this journey to create meaningful outcomes for your business, not just creating a sales training event or a learning initiative through your online LMS, like to what end? Why are we doing this? What dials are going to shift? How are we going to measure it? And how does it link to important outcomes for our business? Pete, your close, and then we'll if you've got questions, now's the time to be adding them, and we'll flick to you, Marcus, to capture those in a sec.
Yeah, no, I certainly a lot of great do's and don'ts. These are great things to think about. The give up part is so true, Andy. It is difficult. At the same time, everyone goes through this difficulty. So it's not just you that's having difficulty. Everybody has difficulty. And I think it's really important to have the right partners in place to help you get through those difficult times, because it is change. It's not easy. At the same time, you want to take advantage of what's out there to get as far as you can, as quickly as you can. So hopefully that's a little bit of what Andy and I shared here. And, if anything, love to interact with you guys as you have questions about what we've shared here, or even in the future, as you guys have questions, want to interact with you guys as much as we can, so we can help. We're in the trenches every day, just like you guys. So definitely interested in continuing to partner and find ways that we continue to help each other be successful.
So I think while we're seeing if any questions, now's the time. Pop them in the Q&A, put them in the chat. We're looking at both right now. So while we're doing that, for those of you who want the free stuff, there is a QR code on there. We've got, I love putting into practice and exampling what we're actually talking about. The digital room, which is powered by Allego, is a brilliant resource tool, and one that sellers have told me time and time again. They get tremendous leverage and benefit out of using it with their clients and customers that they're seeking to sell to, as a sales tool. But in this case, we're using it just as a tool for you to access all of the information and tools and offers that we have for you from our time together today. Anything for you to add there, Peter?
No, I mean, I encourage you guys to click the link, interact with it. Great content, has all of our information there as well, and certainly want to talk more if people find that concept interesting and useful within your guys' environments.
I've had a couple of people reach out to me privately. I'm going to say I'm not going to be able to get to some of these answers in 3 minutes. So I'm just going to say that if you want to reach out on the training piece, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Andy Springer, I think there's very few of us in the world. So I reckon, Peter, with your last name, you would
should be easy to find.
Right at the top of my list if I type your name in right now.
That's right.
Search. Reach out to us, as I said. Very happy to have a personal chat with you on LinkedIn through Messenger. Just shoot me your question. I know some of you don't want to be talking publicly, and that's fine. I understand that you don't want to give away where you're asking questions from, because your organization will be identified very quickly. So I understand that. I said to Peter, we may have some of those situations where it's quite personal or confidential that you can't. Happy to have a conversation with you. We're both, as Peter said, in the trenches every day. It's probably something we can really answer quite quickly for you if you want to reach out. So do that. You've got our LinkedIn's now. Thank you. Look at that. Marcus is super quick.
Marcus.
He's already put our LinkedIn's in there. Just click those in the chat. And for those of you who have sent me those questions, just pop them in the messenger in LinkedIn, because they are training specific. Any other questions, particularly on that platform piece and that revenue enablement platform, please reach out to Peter. As I said, we're generous brands. We're here to help.
Yeah, love to have conversations for sure, especially those who are interested in the high tech piece of it. More than happy to have conversations.
Yeah, great. Pleasure spending time with you, Peter, and everyone else. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share some hopefully value with you all.
Yeah, no, it was great. Appreciate the time. Appreciate everybody listening and joining us today. And Andy, always fun to work together. So it was great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. We're going to wrap up here. And like they said, you can either pull out your phone, snap the QR code, or go to the links provided within the chat. As soon as you leave the webinar, it actually take you right to that digital room. I'm going to add in the recording as soon as we're done here. You've got the slide deck as well as an ebook from Rain Group and other resources from both parties. So thanks again to Andy and Peter, and we look forward to the next one.
Thanks, everybody.